Does your stomach ever feel bloated, but you haven't eaten much? Hi, I'm Rizwana Chowdhury, an advanced nurse practitioner here in the UK, and bloating is probably the most common complaint I see in practice. Today, I want to simply break down what bloating actually is, how and why it can happen, and who is affected more than anybody else. So let's get into it. It's important to first mention that bloating is a symptom, it's not a diagnosis of anything. So it can definitely come and go. It can be worse after eating food. It can also be persistent. Bloating can be a feeling of fullness. It can be described as tightness, uncomfortable. There can also be like a visible swelling and distension of the abdomen. Anyone can get bloating, men, women, older, younger, and certain groups of people are more likely to experience bloating. People with functional gut disorders, people with irritable bowel syndrome, slow digestion, and constipation. Women may notice bloating around their periods due to the hormonal shifts. So the menstrual cycle, it plays a big role with that. Also, people with food intolerances, like, for example, lactose, celiac disease. And there are foods that are known to cause bloating, certain fruits, onions, fizzy drinks, for example. So the more you consume these kind of foods known to produce bloating and gas, the more likely you'll experience those symptoms. Number one, constipation. As I mentioned before, it's one of the most common reasons. Think of your gut like a really busy motorway. And when traffic keeps moving, things run smoothly. But when you have a traffic jam, in this case, constipation, things just back up. Food waste in your bowel starts to ferment and gas builds up. And before you know it, you have a stomach that feels like a stretched balloon. So how often should you be going to the toilet and opening your bowels? So according to NHS guidance, anything between 3 times a day to 3 times a week is considered normal. I think it's very individualized. If you go once a day and it feels complete and easy, that's your baseline and that's absolutely fine. However, if you feel incomplete or there's a certain level of straining, then that is constipation and that can most certainly cause daily bloating. In fact, 1 in 7 people can experience constipation at any given time. So if this feels or sounds familiar, then you're not alone. So if you are constipated, there are a few things that you can do. Number 1 is diet. Start by increasing fiber, high fiber foods slowly and gradually. You want to avoid more gas, and then you need to stay hydrated. Fiber requires water, so make sure you're drinking enough. And then if food hasn't really made much change, then speak to your local pharmacist about laxatives that are available over the counter, and that often gets things going again. Number 2, food and drink. There are just some foods that are more gassier than others, like onions or beans or broccoli or lentils. These are the classic culprits, and they just contain carbs that your gut bacteria likes to ferment. Fermentation equals gas. Add fizzy drinks, chewing gum, wolfing down your food too quickly. It's like inviting air into your stomach, like pumping up a bike tire. Even healthy foods can cause bloating. For example, apples are high in fiber, but for some people, the sugars in the apple can ferment quickly and cause gassiness. And it's not to, cut out apples out of your diet completely, but it will be worth noting what sets you off. And I always advise patients, keep a food diary, circle the foods that make you feel like you've swallowed a football after, and within 1 or 2 weeks, you'll be able to see a pattern or trend. If you spot clear triggers like chewing gum or fizzy drinks, cut them out or swap them out. If you have trickier foods like onions and beans, you may want to consider portion size instead of completely cutting them out because you still want the nutrition. If it's a little bit more trickier than that, where there's multiple foods that trigger you, that causes bloating, then definitely speak to a GP or dietitian because you still need a balanced diet. Number 3, a sensitive gut that overreacts. Here is something fascinating. Not everyone bloats the same amount from the same amount of gas. Conditions like irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, the nerves are extra sensitive in the gut. That means even a small buildup of gas can feel like a really big, painful swell. And the tummy muscles can tense unusual ways. Stress and lack of sleep makes this sensitivity so much worse. That's because the brain and the stomach are in constant conversation through something called the gut-brain axis. If you've ever experienced butterflies in your stomach before an exam or an interview, it's basically the same pathway. But when this pathway is switched on too often, it can make bloating worse day by day. 7 in 10 people that have IBS report bloating as their most bothersome symptom, more so than pain or diarrhea. So what can you do if you have IBS and bloating? Start with simple stress busters like meditation or walking or deep breathing. And I know it's so much easier said than done, but small changes can make big differences. And also protect and safeguard your sleep. Your gut works better when you are rested. And finally, if you are really bloated and it's causing you problems every single day, speak to your GP because you might benefit with a referral to a dietitian. So what are the red flags? When should you go and see your GP? Because bloating can come and go. But if you have bloating that lasts for more than 3 weeks and there's no improvement, that's definitely a reason to go. But also if you have more associated symptoms like blood in your stools or unintentional weight loss or chronic diarrhea and constipation, loss of appetite, fevers, night sweats, nausea and vomiting, lumps and bumps that you've noticed on your stomach. So if your bloating comes with red flags, please don't ignore that and go and see your GP. But to sum up, for most people, daily bloating is related to the 3 main reasons we've covered today. So constipation, dietary triggers, and functional sensitivity. The good news is you can do something about it, like getting your bowels moving more regularly, identifying your food and drink triggers, managing sleep and stress all make a really big difference. If you found this video to be helpful, please let me know in the comments below. I respond to each and every one because it means a lot to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.